Maybe I'll just start with a few opening comments, understanding a few things. There's still active negotiations happening between Canada and the U.S. To find a path forward for the best trade agreement that we can have for years into the future. And I think it's also important for us to recognize the challenges that we've had in this trade agreement over the course of the last number of months, or the better part of the last year, and even up to no path forward in sight, no trade agreement in sight. That changed last evening after a couple of calls between the Prime Minister and the President. After negotiations, I'd say Ambassador Greer, as well as our Minister and our lead negotiator, Charette. I think it's important for us to note that those negotiations do continue to work out some of the finer details of what is a broad agreement that I think has been arrived at by our two countries, and the ongoing negotiations that will happen with respect to the deal more broadly moving forward. I think this is also an opportunity for us as Canadians, and we've always realized this in Saskatchewan, the importance of expanding our markets around the world. As we know, our province exports today to 163 countries around the world. We have some of the, if not the highest per capita GDP numbers, the highest per capita export numbers of not only any province across Canada, but virtually any state or province across North America, and that needs to continue. And us as Canadians need to continue to work on diversifying our markets so that we can expand our industries, expand our exports, and expand our opportunities for Canadians in careers moving forward. With respect to how we do expand that market access, we need to continue to pay attention to the efficiency, the expansion, the operations of our ports, of our rail system, and any opportunity that we have to continue to build pipelines to export energy, not only to the U.S., but to countries around the world. And you've seen that conversation be very active over the course of the last number of months, and that's a good thing for Canadians. It's a good thing for, I would say, the world in providing global energy security. Today, with the agreement in principle that has come to last night, the first point I would make is that the 50% tariffs on $28 billion of Canadian goods, which would have an impact on Saskatchewan industries, is not coming into effect. That is not coming into effect, and that, I think, is step one, and that is a positive step in the negotiations that have been occurring up to and including last night and still going on as we speak. Second is it is a goal, and we continue to negotiate potential reductions to existing sectoral tariffs that we have. Again, there will be more information that will follow in this space, but this is incredibly important to industries in Saskatchewan, and I would say more broadly to industries across Canada. Three, what we have also seen that is specifically beneficial, I think, to Western Canada, but indirectly beneficial to all Canadians, is the notional intention to expand our relationship when it comes to trading energy. Whether it be oil, whether it be uranium, or whether it be any other energy sources that are coming into production and construction, specifically in our province. And that also, I would say, is very much a positive. We do need to recognize that the CUSMA deal that we had 1 and 2 years ago was no longer possible. And so we have to go to the negotiating table as Canadians, and we support those negotiations that have happened as a province of Saskatchewan and continue to happen to get the best deal that we can possibly get. And it is a relative space where we need to have, in many ways, preferred market access to our largest market and our largest trading partner, the United States of America. And I feel that is what we are in the process of achieving, is a best-in-class trade agreement. Best in terms of any country in the world. Canada will have the strongest trade agreement of any country in the world with the United States of America. But we also need to understand that the status quo that we had 2 years ago was not possible. It was not on. And we have to find, and the federal government needs to find, the best path forward so that we can retain industries that are currently employing Canadians wherever they might be, to expand industries, and specifically in Saskatchewan, that's the energy, mining, and ag value-added industry, as well as the manufacturing industry, largely in the ag sector or the mining sector. And I feel that we are on course to find that path forward that is going to provide us in Saskatchewan and us as Canadians that preferred market access to the U.S., preferred ability to also import goods from the U.S., as we have a very integrated economy. It's integrated by design across that 49th parallel, and I'm quite confident that that is going to continue in a different way, moving what it has been over the course of the last decade. So I would say much credit to Minister LeBlanc, to Ambassador Wiseman, to Janet Charette, our lead trade negotiator, and to Prime Minister Carney for finding us that path. As I say, more work to do in the near term, much more work to do over the course of the next number of months with respect to the refinement of the USMCA agreement, but in a much better place than we were even 24 or 48 hours ago with respect to finding certainty and providing certainty for Saskatchewan and Canadian businesses, and ultimately providing certainty for Canadian families, including those that live in this province. So thank you. Any questions?
How is this deal good for Saskatchewan? Can you elaborate a little further?
Pardon me?
Can you elaborate further on how this deal is good for Saskatchewan?
Well, I think when you look at the impact of the current situation in our province, we are about 5% of our economy was impacted at the macro level. If the 50% tariffs were to move forward, that would increase to about 6%, which would mean at the macro level about 94% of the Saskatchewan economy would still be trading tariff-free with the United States of America. That being said, those industries that have been impacted by certain sectoral tariffs, that impact is 100%. And we've seen that with the closure of mills. We've seen that impact on the steel and the manufacturing industry, which is also using steel in this province. And so any reduction in those sectoral tariffs, or any potential reductions in those sectoral tariffs, is going to provide certainty and what would hopefully be somewhat of a more competitive environment than we currently have today. So in that space of the 5% of our economy that is being impacted, it is imperative that we are able to negotiate some reductions in those industries, imperative to those jobs that families have across this province.
Do you have any idea how big those reductions could be?
Again, some of those negotiations are happening as we speak.
How confident are you that the deal is going to last? We've seen a lot of changes coming out of the U.S., so how do you know this one's going to stay?
Well, you need to make every effort to come to a trade agreement with your largest trading partner. Should they move away from this deal in a month or 3 months or 6 months, that is beyond the control of myself or Prime Minister Carney or anyone in Canada for that matter. What we can do is in good faith and make our best efforts to come to an agreement to provide certainty on behalf of the industries, but more importantly the families that work in those industries across the nation. There are some very real impacts, and we've seen that in certain industries here, not too far from right here in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. But we've seen some significant impacts across the nation as well. And so it is incumbent on the federal government, and I feel they have taken up this challenge in quite intensive negotiations, in particular over the last few weeks, to find a path forward. Where it goes from here would be obviously the decision of those two partners, but we need to bargain in good faith, and I feel that Canadians believe that our government and our negotiating team is.
Scott, we heard President Trump saying this deal is very good for farmers in the States. What can farmers here in Saskatchewan take away from this? Are there concerns, and we have the dairy producers?
Yeah. No, I don't think, well, let me back up a little bit. With respect to tariffs, whether they be Canadian counter tariffs or whether they be the initial U.S. tariffs that have been put on, we have always said that they're detrimental to not only Canadian industries and families, but also very detrimental to American industries and families, and they really do strike at the very heart of our North American economic competitiveness. If there are economic changes in the tariff space, for instance, that might be positive for American farmers, I would say that equally that would be positive for Canadian farmers as well. I've often shared the story of how integrated our ag economy is. We buy tractors and combines from the U.S. They often will buy drills and plant genetics and potash fertilizer from Saskatchewan. And so any time that we can make our ag industry, whether it be south or north of the 49th parallel, more competitive, it's going to be good for farmers on both sides of that border. So what is good for American farmers, I would say largely is good for Canadian farmers as well.
Do you want to see other provinces put us, U.S. booze back on the shelf, which seems to be a key to this potential deal holding up?
Yeah, there is an ask from the Prime Minister for us, and obviously likely that ask would come as part of this arrangement for some of the procurement practices, specifically those with U.S. alcohol on the shelves, which doesn't impact Saskatchewan or Alberta. We've allowed consumers to make their own choice all along, but there will be an ask there is an ask by the Prime Minister for provinces to make a decision in that space for this to move forward.
How unified are the voices of the premiers when talking to the Prime Minister as to, like, how willing are you to compromise in Saskatchewan for Quebec or the other way around?
Well, I would say largely there's always been differences at the Council of Federation table or among the provinces at the First Minister's table, but there has always been this overarching effort by all where we can to set aside our differences in the best interests of the nation. That has been throughout this process, notwithstanding some differences of opinion or strategies moving forward. But that diversity certainly isn't a weakness. It is a strength. It always has been a Canadian strength for us to respect one another's diversity. But there is that broader initiative and a broader goal of all of the premiers to put our nation first and to ensure that we are doing what we can to find our way, in this case, to a trade agreement of some type that gives us preferred market access or preferred status with our largest trading partner, the United States of America. So I'll let other provinces speak to the specifics of some of the asks that may come to them in the space of procurement, but that is the ask of the Prime Minister.
What kind of provincial support is available for businesses, industry, what if any?
We've stepped in throughout with provincial support, whether it be in the steel industry. For example, our Saskatchewan Power, our Crown utility, has pulled forward many years of steel power pole production to ensure that, like Interpro Pipe, for instance, does have work to do today to find our way through what has been a difficult situation. And our hopes is that over whether it be this agreement or over the continued negotiations, that we'll get the steel industry, the forestry industry, the manufacturing industry to a stronger position with respect to their access to the United States market. At the end of the day, what it does is it provides us with that North American, whether it be manufacturing security, whether it be energy security, as much of the steel product goes into the energy industry as well. And ultimately something that we all too often take for granted, and that's our food security across this continent.
Is there a plan for when potash and uranium come under threat?
Potash and uranium which?
Come under threat?
Under threat? They won't become under threat. With respect to a number of the products that we produce in this province, whether it be potash, uranium, oil, it's a good example of how we provide North American energy security and how we should at times look inwardly as to how we can expand our reach with those products to other countries around the world. That's why there's great importance of discussion for Canadians is West Coast pipeline, maybe a pipeline to Eastern or Central Canada as well, to have true Canadian energy security, as opposed to what happens today, where that oil actually does travel down through the United States and then back up into Canada. We are currently importing oil, a non-carbon tax paid oil, I would say as well, into the St. Lawrence, the Gulf of St. Lawrence for Central Canada usage as well. So this, I think, is part of the opportunity that we have as Canadians is one, can we diversify our markets to other areas of the world? And can we have a very mature and responsible conversation on behalf of Canadians with how we are actually going to provide those products to the world, whether it be uranium, whether it be potash through efficient rail and port facilities, or whether it actually be oil providing that to our allies around the world through additional West Coast egress capacity or additional West Coast pipelines. This is an important opportunity, I'd say an important moment in Canadian history and what our nation is going to look like moving forward. Are we going to continue to be, totally reliant on the United States of America? And many provinces are, Saskatchewan less so, but many provinces are largely reliant on their trade relationship with the United States of America, which is what makes this agreement so crucially important to Canadian families and industries. But moving forward, as we bring on additional production and grow our industries and grow our economy, we should always be looking abroad for opportunities to diversify where we are providing that energy and food and manufacturing security to other countries around the world. Saskatchewan has been very focused on that for a number of years now, I would say 2 decades, with trade offices, with missions that we conduct, and ultimately have reduced the percent of our exports down to somewhere between 55 and 60%. That's some of the lowest reliance on the United States of America market relative to any province across Canada. Other provinces, I think, would do well to look at what Saskatchewan has done over the last 2 decades and emulate some of that outreach with allied countries around the world. And there are some very real opportunities in that space today, and I'll provide you with 2. I was just recently in Central Europe, in the countries of the Czech Republic as well as Poland. We respectively are up 4,000% year over year on our exports to the Czech Republic and up 3,500% year over year with Saskatchewan's exports to Poland. There are opportunities out there to grow our trade relationship and to provide more energy security, food security, and ultimately economic opportunity to the world.
Do you support keeping retaliatory tariffs by Canada?
If we're able to come to an agreement, which is what this looks like today with the notional agreement last night and some of the details being worked out, I would say that is not part of the conversation as we move forward. I've always been supportive of finding our way to that trade agreement with the United States of America. That's always been the goal of Saskatchewan, and everything we've done over the course of the past year has been about taking steps towards that goal, whether it be utilizing the contacts that we have, whether it be the late Senator Lindsey Graham has been helpful in that space, as well as a number of other senators, folks within President Trump's cabinet, using and utilizing those contacts to ensure that they know the importance of the trade relationship from the province of Saskatchewan's perspective, but they also know the importance of that trade relationship in building out that North American energy and food security.
What would you say to manufacturers who are eating costs and will be hit even harder if Trump does do what he says he's going to do?
What did he say he's going to do? Well, as near as I can tell last night is there's negotiations that are ongoing to not move forward with the 50% tariffs, and I assume that's what you're referring to when you say Trump says does what he says he's going to do. What he has most recently said he's going to do is not move forward with those 50% tariffs. I would say that's a positive for this trade relationship. And there's continued, I would say, very sensitive negotiations happening on, are there opportunities for us to reduce some of the sectoral tariffs that are in place today? Now, there are asks of Canadian provinces as well, as you know there would be in any trade negotiation. The ask of the Prime Minister is for some of the procurement rules that have been put in place by a number of provinces, specifically around American alcohol, that those would be changed in the near future.
With all this tariff uncertainty, what is your government doing to encourage people to buy more Saskatchewan-made products, especially everyday grocery and food products, so more money stays in the province and local producers are less exposed to U.S. trade disruption?
We are always supportive and have a number of programs in place to support not only local production but local purchasing. And we encourage all Saskatchewan people to purchase local, not only locally sold but locally produced goods, food goods, whether it be in the ag space, ag manufactured goods, whatever that might be. The fact of the matter is that we export 7 out of every $10 that we produce. So we do need access to international markets. We do need access to the it is if not per person ratios across North America. This is what we do. We grow and produce food and energy products as well as in food security. We produce in this province, which is a blessing, and would provide us with the appreciation of what Saskatchewan people do each and every day in developing the resources we have, from the agricultural land to the mining sector to the oil and gas sector to the manufacturing sector, and really help the rest of our allied nations around the world in achieving energy and food security, which is really at the heart of what we want to accomplish as global citizens.
Scott, part of this trade deal seems to be on the Keystone XL pipeline, a big key part of this deal. And where does Saskatchewan stand on it? And what impact could this have on our province?
Always been positive on any additional pipeline access, not only to the American market, but to the West Coast, so that we can access the rest of the world as well. And this has been an ongoing discussion over the course of the last decade, or a little bit better, in our nation. We're supportive of each and every pipeline that is being proposed, whether it's Bridger, KXL, former KXL pipeline. South Bow is one of the pipelines that is being proposed, as well as the West Coast pipeline that Premier Smith in the province of Alberta has been the proponent of. And take additional retaliatory measures on the other side and really get us nowhere near a trade deal moving forward, or a more positive economic environment moving forward. One of the opportunities that we have is to actually produce more energy, and provide that not only to the U.S. but to other countries around the world. That has always been a negotiating tool, or a negotiating tactic that we had as Canadians, and I think the recognition of KXL as being part of this conversation speaks to that as well.
There was some talk floating around about the Americans seeking preferential access to critical minerals as part of this deal. Do you have anything to say about that? Is that something that you're aware of, or you'd be willing to entertain?
The United States of America already, I would say, purchases as many or more critical minerals from Canada than any other country on Earth. And if you want to include, and I would, I don't think it's on the list, but oil in that space as a critical element, we already send literally 90 to 95% of Saskatchewan oil is finding its way to the U.S. today. A large portion of our Saskatchewan produced potash, which is a critical mineral, is being sold in the U.S. today, among many other countries around the world. Saskatchewan uranium today, before those 3 mines that opened that I discussed earlier, but the 2 mines that are operating in Saskatchewan today power 1 in 17 homes throughout the United States of America. With the outbuild of 8 to 10 reactors in the U.S., you're going to see that percentage climb in the years ahead. And so already, I would say, the relationship of the United States of America in purchasing, whether it be Saskatchewan or Canadian critical minerals, is very strong. And to build on that relationship, I think, is a positive. We also have the opportunity to build that trade relationship with other countries around the world, and we're seeing that. I mentioned earlier, I was in the Czech Republic and Poland. Czech Republic is building 2 nuclear reactors as we speak. Poland is building 3, likely going to build 3 more. And uranium will be sourced quite likely from the province of Saskatchewan for those reactors. So there's opportunities for us to, yes, increase the relationship, the trade relationship that we have with the United States of America when it comes to critical minerals. But I would say tremendous opportunity for us to increase that same trade relationship based in critical mineral trade with many other countries around the world, namely our allied countries.
How likely do you think it is that all provinces put U.S. booze back on the shelf?
That'll be a question for the rest of the provinces. It's in Saskatchewan, as we said, we have allowed consumers to make their choice throughout this. It's just a difference that many provinces have had with respect to the approach to the United States of America.
Do we have any idea when the details of this deal will be finalized?
Well, I think you saw an extension for 3 days. I know our negotiators are continuing to do some very important work on Canada's behalf, and may I say on behalf of a stronger economy across North America. And so I would look for more specific details to be announced by the Prime Minister at some point in the next few days, or at the conclusion of the work that is ongoing. And I would just again say, a very large thank you to those negotiators that are at the table. Janet Charette is doing some excellent work, Ambassador Wiseman, and Minister LeBlanc.
President Trump signaled that he's potentially reviving the Keystone XL pipeline. What would that mean for Saskatchewan if the project is going to restart?
I think if we were able to not only revive some egress capacity that was committed to in Keystone XL, Bridger pipeline is, I would say, part of that discussion as well. We have a South Bow pipeline proposal to the United States, mainline expansion proposal through the United States, as well as a proposal by the province of Alberta to the West Coast. Those are all positives for Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan oil and gas sector and the Saskatchewan economy. I said earlier, we have well over $60 billion of investment, private sector investment, that is in process in this province today, including the uranium mine that I announced last week. We can see the next $50 billion within reach, and a large amount of that $50 billion, a large proportion of that $50 billion will come from oil and gas investment, and we are going to need all of that pipeline capacity to the United States as well as to the West Coast to provide that energy security to countries around the world in order for us to develop the oil and gas sector in this province, which is not only one of the most competitive oil gas production sectors in the world, but it's the most sustainable product that you can find on earth of its kind. And that's something collectively I think we can be very proud of as Canadians, providing energy security of a very sustainable product relative to any like product around the world. And in doing so, providing that energy security not just to the U.S. and ourselves in Canada, but to many other countries around the world. This is an inflection point for us as Canadians. We need to ensure that we are supportive not only of pipelines being constructed, but of efficient rail service that is being provided so that we can export many products, including critical minerals like potash, for years into the future, and efficient port services as well.
Bob Mooney speaking. I have two questions for you. You're talking about the oil that's going into the United States of America. What are you selling that oil per barrel?
I don't sell any oil.
Well, what does Saskatchewan sell it?
Whatever the day price is, I suppose. They have.
What is the world price?
What is it today?
Yeah.
I don't know today. I could check.
Well, I believe that it's a lot higher than what we give to the United States.
There has been an ongoing, it actually is an interesting discussion. There has been an ongoing basis reduction on Western Canadian oil due to our inability to get oil to the world and to the global price, into a global position on the west coast of Canada. That's why the existing pipeline that was constructed, the TMX, was so important, as it did lower and stabilize the basis and essentially stabilize the Western Canadian price for oil that we receive. There is further opportunity with that second line that has been proposed by Premier Smith in the province of Alberta to even further narrow or shrink that basis and provide Western Canadian oil with a price that is much closer to the global price that is being advertised. That being said, largely Saskatchewan barrels of oil do find their way to the United States of America. There's a question over here.
I have another question for you.
Sorry, I got to speak to the media here. I can talk to you after. Yeah.
If I could switch gears to the SMS, can I ask why there is a tactical unit needed when municipal police and RCMP already have similar units?
Oh, with respect to the RFP that was being put out. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that particular RFP that was being put out for a special tactical unit. What we would like to see the Saskatchewan Marshal Service focusing on is their relationship and how they can support our other enforcement agencies. Working closely, for example, with the chief of the or the assistant commissioner of the RCMP, our municipal police chiefs in Prince Albert, Saskatoon, Regina, and a number of other communities, and working closely with those enforcement agencies to ensure that our Saskatchewan Marshal Service is in place, has a operating agreements where they can truly support those enforcement agencies in keeping residents safe in our communities, regardless of where they might be located across the province. So I was unaware of that RFP that was moving forward, and the government's asking some questions with respect as to whether that RFP should be moving forward.
Would you be able to answer why long-range acoustic devices are necessary for their operations?
No. No, I suppose if you had a special unit, that type of tactical gear may be necessary. Our focus, and the government's ask of the Saskatchewan Marshal Service, is to ensure that they are forming and advocating for strong relationships with our municipal police chiefs, our RCMP, so that they have the ability to come in when needed to support our current and our existing enforcement agencies to keep our communities safer moving forward than maybe they have been in the last few years.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.